Quartervore actually building spell sword on every single roam he
Mm.
was on.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It would be Catherine. It would be Grace. He'd buy a spell sword with that early game weapon blade. But I think the rotation he likes to do, where the carry and jungler start their backs together, he rotates through the lane to go to the enemy backs. Won't work today against Nebulae. They'll have obviously looked it up. They'll know exactly what's likely to happen and just be ready to counter it. If the Catherine ban first ban is pretty standard, I'd expect Grace or maybe even Idris just to be banned away now by Nebulae. So
Yep,
by Impunity.
definitely. I mean, for the side of Impunity, they have got a lot of bans for them, but we saw a decent pattern coming up from them in the previous week. It's that they do not quite, pick out the roamers or the captains first. Instead, they would just try to secure the carries because in the current meta or in drafting phase in general, a lot of players, a lot of teams would try to secure their roamers. But as for Impunity, because Quartervore, firstly, is a shout call of the team. Secondly, he has a wide pool of captain heroes. I mean, at this point in time, on the fold itself, on captains would be 6, and those off meta or rather off tanks would be that of Baptiste, and that just adds up to about 10 or so captains. But all in all, I think Quartervore will be very comfortable allowing his team to just secure the carries that he wants first.
Yeah, certainly. If your captain is comfortable on most or all of the meta captains at the moment, you have got a lot to choose from, and they just cannot ban them all away from you. You're going to be left with something you're happy with. Even Finn, we've seen a resurgence of in some other regions. So it'd be interesting to see if that is again what Impunity decide to go for. Maybe banning away the Idris or Taka. We did not expect a Taka ban. Why do you think they've done that? Do you think they want to play Celeste? Because obviously Taka does quite well against mages and squishy heroes. Do you think maybe we're going to see a Celeste pick Blackfeather ban from Impunity?
Well, there is one thing about Taka, it's that in Southeast Asia at least, we have went away with the Storm Crown into Aftershock build. We are now going for the Shatterglass into Clockwork, into Broken Myth. So we have made that transition, that phase through, and that particular build on Taka can really just half health any squishy heroes right there. So maybe Impunity is wary of this Taka and thus just wants to ban it out. But for themselves, they picked up the Grace in counter to the Lance being picked up by the side of Nebulae.
Yes. Now, with the Taka ban, it does suggest they want to do a brew. Sorry, not a brew. So they want to do either a protect the carry comp with 2 captains and a squishy mage at the back line. But if they try and ban the Blackfeather now, then you know Celeste is going to be banned away from them most likely. But they're going to ban the Crawl, so they're leaving Blackfeather open, which means Celeste is unlikely to be picked. They could just go for Blackfeather themselves if it is left open, and that would be a reasonably strong draft from Impunity. They have a lot of flexibility, and they just have to last pick to counter whatever Nebulae want. Nebulae here, I think they can ban. There's not anything they need to ban. They could get rid of the glaive if that's something they don't want to play against. Yeah, they are going to do that. So now I'd expect Blackfeather pick from Impunity here. And it is.
There you go.
And what do you think? What comp are Nebulae going to go for? They've got lots of stuff they can do. What are you expecting? Maybe a weapon kestrel? What do you think, Luxuria?
Well, Nebulae really just rely on trophies on that carry role, on that mage carry role. We saw yesterday when they went with the Lance Catherine and of course the CP Idris just to chain their CCs together. But today, I think we'll be seeing something largely similar. Of course, trophies would probably be on that Sky and Iron will die on that Lance. If not, then if Delphi is playing for them, then at least Delphi will be on that Lance, and then Iron will die can be on that Sky. But Iron Die on Sky hasn't quite been seen very often. He's usually that weapon, or rather the weapon jungler of the team, and trophies would generally want to be on that, mage role. Unless, of course, if they've shaked up their roster this time, remove the starters, subbed in some other players for their own team, then we might see a very different draft coming out from the side of Nebulae.
Yeah, I know it sounds weird. I quite like to see an Alpha as the last pick with the CP Sky lane because it does really well against Blackfeather. and it does really well if they want to pick any squishy Crystal Power Mage as the last pick. But that's just me. We saw a little bit of Alpha yesterday in EU once, but she's not seen a lot of love very recently. But yeah, I think it is much more likely that we could even see a Grumpjaw. That is a nice pick for Angry He does love to play heroes, assassins like Grumpjaw, and because obviously Glaive and Taka have all been taken off the fold, there aren't that many comfort picks left.
Well, definitely. So the draft will be restarted, and all in all, it will be very, very similar drafting. We'll be seeing a Black Feather coming out for the side of Impunity, and for the side of Nebulae. Honestly, they have quite a variety of heroes they can go for their last pickup. I really do not think. There you go. So, Angry Uday will be on that Lance, and we have trophies once again on that Sky, and Delphire will be on the Ardent. If not, then Truffless will be on that Ardent. Whereas for the side of Impunity, they can immediately just secure that Celeste. Celeste will do relatively well. If not, then at least a Scarf going up against a CP Sky in the early game, or even a CP Idris will do relatively well.
Yeah, the problem with picking something like Celeste or Scarf is that Weapon Lance does really well against you. Weapon Lance just can go in and will delete any backline mage that you've got until Grace hits level 6. And even then, if you get a good stun timing with the Githian Wall, you can burst them down, force the Grace ult, just back off for a couple of seconds, and then go straight back in with another Impale. So I think it's risky to go that. I think Idris would be a really smart pick as well, because he can outpoke Sky. And the hyper carry comp just does not work if you have as much dive as Blackfeather Idris does. So I agree with you there. They could go for the Celeste or Scarf, but I think that would be a slightly worse pick for them.
Yep, CP Idris is still on the table, and we saw the amount of damage a Chakram can actually put out once you get your first Shattered Glass, if not then Frostburn. And we saw a rather peculiar... what a pickup. Not really expected coming out from the side of Impunity, that Castrol being picked up. But all in all, we have seen that Castrol, and we saw how they work the Castrol and how comfortable either DevQ or Blue City really is on that Castrol.
Yeah, so I would expect this to be a weapon Kestrel lane and CP Blackfeather in the jungle, just because Lance wants to go up to lane to try and stop Kestrel farming up, and so by having a CP Blackfeather in the jungle, you're kind of tempting Lance to try and invade your jungle because CP Blackfeather is very weak early on, and that will allow your weapon Kestrel to just farm up and become to a almost unstoppable point at the later point in the game. They could obviously do a weapon Blackfeather lane, CP Kestrel jungle, but I think that's just weak on both fronts because CP Kestrel could be invaded and Blackfeather can easily be ganked by the Lance, and so he has free reign among either to try and win the early game advantage. I think late game it will almost certainly be in Impunity's favour because they have 2 carries as opposed to the probably just 1 and a half captain, half carry from Nebulae. But I think if Nebulae can get an early to mid game advantage, snowball with the Lance and allow Sky to get 4 items before Kestrel can, then they'll be in a good position.
Yep, I just saw the player line up for the side of Nebulae, and something intrigued me. So we will be seeing Cyajin actually playing on this particular game. And if the viewers do not know who Cyajin is, he may seem like a new starter or a new player that came out of nowhere, but honestly, he is just Kirchhoff's from Impunity from the last season, if I'm not wrong. I need someone to actually correct me on that if I got it wrong. But, with Cyajin, I spoke to Delphire, the captain, or, the captain of Nebulae, and he says that Cyajin is their secret weapon coming into the Vainglory 8 Southeast Asia. So I'm really excited to see how he's going to perform as his role as a roamer, because you are the shot caller, you will be the playmaker if you're on that roam role. And we saw Guessing X yesterday from Brand Esports on that Lance, and he put out so much work as well. So let's see if Cyajin can actually and will actually be the secret weapon for the side of Nebulae.
Yeah, definitely. It is interesting to see a roster change on the second day. They must clearly be comfortable with these three people. And I do agree with you because yesterday we saw some fantastic Lance plays, but they've decided that it wasn't good enough. So they're just going to swap out, put in Cyajin on the captain and we're going to see an aggressive rotation from Impunity going in as 3 to try and pop a scout trap. Sajin's not going to have that for very long, and they're just obviously going to try and take away this mid-trim. But actually, Sajin gets the first hit that brings it towards Nebulae's side. It's secured by Impunity. Defq gets that, and now they're going in. Sajin going very low. He's going to have to force Healing Flask, and the flare will spot out where he's going. That'll be a kill for Blue City on this Crystal Power Blackfeather, and an early game first blood to Impunity.
Yep, first blood on the secret weapon of Nebulae. Well. Honestly, Impunity for all the Southeast Asia teams will definitely be the role model, be the threat of the fold. I mean, they have made a name for themselves. They beat the champions of the previous split, or rather the previous season. We had Infamous sitting very high up there in the previous season, but Impunity just came in during lives and put up quite a show, to be honest. Took Infamous to a game of 5, winning them 3-2. It was a rather close matchup all in all, but with that, Impunity's confidence definitely is going up the roof, and in the recent weeks itself, we've seen Impunity just putting in so much work. And like I mentioned before in the previous week, it's that Impunity, they train up to 11 hours every single day just to keep up team synergy and of course their team comms and what have you not. So honestly, you know, for the side of Nebulae, it will be a tough fight.
It certainly will. Impunity are slightly ahead at the moment. Iron Greedy is rotating up, and Trophies with the double weapon blade, yeah, is most likely still going to be a CP Sky. That's probably just helping him out in the early game, because going double weapon would just be such a big risk with not much reward. Because when you go a hyper carry comp, you want them to be prioritizing defense against your hyper carry, and then Lance is just free to deal damage, because they think that he's not going to be anything significant. Whereas if they go double weapon, then they can just itemize against Trophies, and Iron Greedy would easily be able to, so it wouldn't be able to do any damage. Yeah, Defq is going to be pushed back in lane, but he'll be able to farm up pretty effectively. And we saw early game aggression from Impunity. I'm pretty sure that was just to make sure that Nebulae didn't get the early game advantage, which they can do online.
Yep, definitely. That is something I must agree with you on as well. But honestly, looking at Nebulae's team comp, they are really just working for the late game. As we all know, Trophies on this Sky is a relatively late game, all know, as a hero himself. He really needs that Sorrow Blade, if not the Serpent's Mask. Some people like to build the Serpent's Mask into the Breaking Point and the Tornado Trigger. That is one thing that I've seen quite often. Very much like that Petal build, the weapon power petal build that we've seen as well. So coming into this game, the side of Nebulae really just want to just farm up and get all the items necessary to put out enough damage in that late game, because we all know Weapon Sky, what you excel at is really just zoning out the enemies, and on top of that as well, it's your mobility, the fact that you can just, you know, dance around the enemy, so much so that the enemy cannot catch up to you. And without a weapon Blackfeather, that means that the side of Nebula can fully utilize Sky's mobility, because a Blackfeather, a CP Blackfeather really wants to just poke down with it on point and finish you off with that execute.
Speaking of the on point, that is going on to Trophies, forcing the Healing Flask out a little bit early for this team fight. Looks like you're going to miss the second one though. Iron Greedy rotating up to lane, hasn't shopped yet. There's actually a lot of gold on Nebulae, so they do not want to fight at the moment. Just going to back off, and we're going to find out. Trophies picks up a Shattered Glass, so it will be CP Sky. I agree, that's the smart decision. And what was that? Whoa, Luxuria.
No, Luxuria. I like how you say that, yeah. But that bow was because it was really unexpected for me, because I thought Iron Greedy would settle for that on-hit lance, and Trophies will go for, you know, that Weapon Sky, in which, you know, you can just dance around and just put out damage with your basic attacks. Whereas now, with a CP Sky, what happens then, honestly, is Blue City can just really just easily trade up with you, because on point, or rather not on point, but your lock-on is now necessary, and with the amount of poke that's coming through from Impunity, it will be very, very difficult. And the fact that Quarter 4,
there's going to be an Impale onto Defq, not doing that much, but Defq is doing an awful lot back onto Saiyajin. He is forced to back off very far behind his target. There's the Impel, does miss. Iron Goo dies, so sitting up. Saiyajin tries to save his life, but dies in the process. Truffy's going to put down the Death above, and the nice forward barrage hitting up Bluesty, but he needs to be careful of Death Q. There are minions to try and body block that Glimmer shot. Death Q popping the healing blast. Now Bluesty is not going to walk into that Impel. Easy on point on Iron Goo, and the Rose offensive under turret. He gets pushed back, but he runs offensive hearts forward. The turret shot does not quite do enough, and now Impunity, turret siege, weapon kestrel, easy tier 1 turret.
And this is what I'm talking about. Without your lock-on on a
the fire's going to continue though. Impel does actually land, but he has no vision on Death Q as he runs away invisible. And that's going to be a lovely stun on the Death above and the active camera. Iron Goo die going solo, but the fountain was picked up by Saiyajin when he died and used to keep Iron Goo die alive. Truffy's wants more, but Death Q's going to back off, and I don't think Nebulae are going to get anything from this. The fight now is over.
Yep, and that was what I was talking about. We saw Truffy's trying his bestest to just put on the lock-on onto Blue City, but because of how mobile the CP Black Feather really is, there is really no way to just put on your forward barrage, which will be the bulk of your CP damage as a Sky at least. And that is the issue that, you know, we can't quite see. As CP Sky, you really just want to lock on, put on your forward barrage, but the amount of poke coming through from Death Q and that of Blue City is just way too much as compared. I mean, damage for damage wise, they definitely have got more poke as compared to you. Both of the teams cannot quite hard engage, except for Iron Goo and Saiyajin on that Arden. They can hard engage, true. But Truffy's really just want to stay at the back lines, really just want to poke. And Sky being picked out on Truffy's is something that's very questionable to me, because we saw yesterday he doesn't quite play as, you know, a weapon carry. He plays a lot of his CP carry heroes as a mage, like a mage.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting. Actually, Impunity take away the gold mine due to a slightly poor rotation from Nebulae. They just let them get it. And the level 5 infusion from Death Q is about to run out, but Bluesty's already picked one up. So Impunity using those infusions well to get an early game lead. Iron Goo, you said you thought he was going to go an on-hit build with Weapon Sky, but it looks like he's just going for a lot of tank, possibly even a fountain with that, a second fountain with the Oak Heart and Light Shield. Obviously could go into Aegis, but we have seen some double fountain with hyper carry comp, and it works really well as long as you don't accidentally fountain at the same time, which is quite it's actually quite hard to do. There's a triple impale, blind impale I do believe, and a double death from above stun. So Nebulae starting very well, but Kestrel wants to go in. Death Q going invisible, the actual camera. Impale does actually miss, but that is a feint of heart onto the minion, so that the on point could hit on Scruffy. There's the second on point. So much damage, forcing the Vanguard. One shot, one kill is available, but will not quite be enough unless this next on point lands from Bluesty's. One shot, not quite enough. He's going to boots in, and he's actually going to on point onto Iron Goo, who will come up roll over the wall. Not the best place to use. Another 1 point does chunk down Iron Goo, and this will be another turret siege. Weapon Kestrel, easy tier 2 turret for Impunity.
Yep, and honestly, if you'd ask Saiyajin though, whoa.
Going to do the gauntlet, very defensive. Bluesty is actually going to fall. Fountain used by Saiyajin to keep it alive. Iron Goo missing the glimmer shots by Death Q. That's a line intervention. Not enough. The 4 barrage doing so much work from Truffy's. Shatterglass clockwork. Who needs a Frostburn when you can just kill? Get the ace. Nebulae, turn it around.
Yep, very good turnaround coming up from Nebulae, and I really think it was just complacency coming through from Impunity that allowed that turnaround. But all in all, I must say, very good play from Iron Goo with those Githyan wall, and of course we cannot forget that Truffy's, he is still the, you know, the damage thrower, the damage outputter in this game, and that should be your key target. Granted, you can get Iron Goo low, you can remove Saiyajin from the fold, in which they did, but Truffy's was allowed free reign over that particular fight, and just allowed to put out so much more damage as compared to, say, Blue City or Death Q, which had ran out of arrows then, or glimmer shots then, and thus, you know, the side of Nebulae can just turn that fight around.
Yeah, as soon as Truffy's gets target lock onto Death Q, 1-4 barrage, he's going to absolutely melt. 3 damage items completed already on Truffy's. Death Q has no defense. Black Feather's got a little bit, got double tier 1. And we see Metal Jacket on Iron Goo and Saiyajin. That is very good team-wide, discipline to think, yeah, I want to get some damage, I want to get some Atlas, I want to get maybe a Crucible, but I need this full metal jacket as early as possible. So DefQ now will be doing almost, not nothing, but doing much less damage to the tanks of Nebulae, but still those glimmer shots are going to hurt Truffy's an awful lot. It's all about who can get the poke first. It looks like Impunity will be the better team to poke with 2 poke heroes as opposed to just 1 from Nebulae. But if Lance lands a good Impale, it will be a pretty easy team fight for Nebulae.
It will be. I mean, Lance just have to land the Impale, probably chain it into a Githyan wall, followed by a lock-on from Sky, and then a death from above, trapping all 3 members of Impunity, and then...
Impale, there's just going to be a single onto Quarter Bar, but he does have to use to get himself away. Fountain used as well very early. Nebulae in a great fight here. They have all their actives up, and there is nothing but Infusion picked up for Bluxady. Nothing on Quarter for him to use. And so Quarter is like, no, guys, don't fight. I used everything to keep myself alive except for my ultimates and Echo. Now Nebulae could try and sneak a gold mine. They know Impunity's rotating up to lane. The Truffys could be out of position. It'll be okay. Full barrage for a little bit of poke, but not going to do too much. Bluxady wants to get that on point, but does not connect. Great Rose offensive to dodge the Impale, but that is the first divine intervention used. Stun onto Angry Dad, but the Gauntlet does come down, and a stun to Githyan wall into the Gauntlet wall. Definitely going to get held up. The divine intervention will keep him nice and healthy. The Truffys on the back line going to get the Fountain, keep him up. Sergeant going very low. All 6 members of the fold are quite low. One shot taking Truffys even lower. And he does actually Black Feather. Sky picks up the Black Feather. Now DefQ is going to try and run away. And blind! He gets it! I angry you die with the place. Quarter will not be able to get away from this Sky. That's a frost burn. That's an ace. Nebulae of turning this game right around.
Nebulae definitely playing very, very well there. Sergeant, I mean, there's a couple of times where I saw Sergeant and I was just sitting on the edge of my chair. He just got down so low, but honestly, the only reason Nebulae can come out ahead in the team fight really was because the activatables coming out from the side of Quarterball was actually popped earlier on into the team fight, and Nebulae immediately just capitalized on that and just won them team fight. And of course, Iron Bullseye on this Lance is really a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, definitely the Impale, the blind Impale onto DefQ. No idea where he was, just think he's probably going this way, and he was. Iron does look like he's going to get a Sorrow Blade second item, so that works really well on Weapon Lance to make sure your damage scales once DefQ picks up a bit of Crystal Defense, which he has decided to go for Aegis as the 4th item as opposed to 4 damage. And Quarter forced to pop the Fountain and Crucible on himself. Once again, Nebulae poking before the fight even started on the captain, and Truffys with the Sui Strike over the wall could have been in trouble, but Impunity have backed off. And so Nebulae once again are in a great position because they know Fountain Crucible isn't up, but they're just going to pour home because they got a little bit of gold. Want to repop their infusions and get properly ready for the fight.
Yep, Impunity really have to rework the strategy at this point in time. They allowed Truffys to just farm up a little way too much. Currently sitting at 3 full items, and of course waiting for the broken myth. With that, just 4 items, build a slumbering husk, and honestly Truffys can just put out so much damage with just 1 lock-on. Whereas you look over at Bluxady, granted he has got his defense, and you look over at DefQ, he has got his defense as well, but they cannot quite build against that of Iron Bullseye and Truffys at the right amount.
There's going to be the Impale, double stun actually. Bluxady going extremely low. Has got double tier 1 defense, but it's not quite enough for that tension bow block on Angry Die. Impale does miss. That could be the cue for Impunity. No, just a couple of glimmer shots. On point does fail. Now Nebulae rotating through Impunity's jungle, clearing out the vision. Poke from Truffys. He hasn't got a broken miss, so it won't be stacking up, but they have started both these fights by poking out Quarter before the fight, and the Impale does not, so the basic attack does not quite connect onto DefQ, but he's extremely low on energy, so he's forced to port home back to the base. And that is an Impale onto, once again, Quarter slightly out of position. Will he be forced to use the Crucible and Fountain himself? He will use the Water to use his boots. Echo on the Gauntlet just for Quarter, forced Divine Intervention and Fountain, and he will probably echo that, try and Divine Intervention himself again, but it will not be enough, and Quarter goes down. Nebulae will not be able to get this gold mine though because it's going to despawn, and they wasted Echo, 100-second cooldown on Arden just for the captain. Was that worth it, Luxury? Are they going to get this Kraken, or are they going to try and get an ace?
Well, if they actually push for this Kraken, then it will definitely be worth it for them. However, if they are hesitant, but As we can tell, they are not hesitant whatsoever. They will be going in to take this Kraken. However, one shot, one kill will be out for DevQ. And that, if it is sniped by DevQ, then it will be a very bad day for the side of Nebulae. However, they will be able to secure this Kraken, all good and dandy for them. And now they just have to siege with this Kraken, else this Kraken will just get very, very low before even that anchor turret.
Yeah, they are trying to farm up because Truffy's didn't have quite the gold for a broken myth. So he nipped down to the shop to get that, and in response, Impunity went, yep, we know you're not at this Kraken, let's just half-health it before you even fight. That's an impale onto Blue and a pushback, so there's going to be a stunt, only onto Sergeant though, full barrage, chunking out Quarterbar, the block's not enough, he doesn't use the fountain, doesn't use the ultimate, try it because he didn't want to use it on himself, and there's the lock on, DevQ, that's a full barrage, not in the right direction, Truffy's could be in a lot of trouble, but they're not quite going to get the basic attack onto him. DevQ's getting poked down a little bit. Sergeant could be out of position. He has not got anything. He's out of He gauntlets to try and dodge the one shot, one kill, but Bluxity gets it with and on point. And the Kraken, one turret, not too great for Nebulae. I think Truffy's forward barrage in not quite the right direction. He thought he could move up, but the map wasn't there for him to do so.
Yep, and one thing as well was that granted he did not have enough gold for that infusion or even that broken myth, but honestly that Kraken had, you know, the side of Nebulae just...
DevQ tries to face check thinking there's no scout trap, and he does just about survive! Pale comes through, wasting the Divine Intervention, and the Angry is trying to survive, but Sergeant is back up to be an ace, and Grace gets the kill with the mace in the face. But Sergeant is still up, so it's not disaster. They trade their 2 kills, 2 lives for 1 kill onto DevQ. So that was really interesting. Truffy's caught out DevQ. DevQ walked into the bush where they had vision, and DevQ still managed to get the kill.
Yep. So I mean. DevQ is a very, very mechanically skilled player all in all, and the amount of damage that he has, whereas for Truffy's, he really needs the lock on, he needs the forward barrage, he needs to prep up, yeah, he needs to ramp up for his damage, whereas DevQ fires 4 glimmer shots in your face, or just 1 or 2 glimmer shots in your face, and you are done for. And thus, I guess the trade-off will be rather logical, all in all. But if Impunity continue making mistakes like this, it will be very, very bad. As we can tell, Nebulae is definitely looking very, very strong at this point in time.
They certainly are. Both teams rotating towards the Kraken to try and fight. It's not up yet, but try and fight for map position. And Kraken will probably spawn quite soon. 3k gold lead is still in favour of Impunity, despite the fact that it seems like they haven't won any team fights recently. They're still ahead in gold because they got the Kraken, they got some nice shutdowns as well on Traffic 9 who you die. Going to rotate as 3 down to the shop. Infusion picked up the Kestrel, and there she is. Kraken has awakened, so now both teams fighting over this. Impunity going to rotate through past their Crystal Sentry because Nebulae are going for the turret push strategy. Truffy's waiting in the bush, but he'll be spotted out, and DevQ is not thinking this is a good position. Impunity going to back as 3, and Nebulae probably know it. They're going to go towards the Kraken. I don't think they'll start it up because they're worried that Impunity are just waiting for them. But Nebulae, again, once again, going to shop. I agree that I cannot actually read Popper's infusion. He's a little bit more gold to do so, and nothing quite going to happen yet. Just waiting.
Yep, they probably just want to have all the infusions up before they find the next team fight. However, Impunity is strutting down lane at this point in time, reversing or just going back on the strategy that Nebulae comes up. Sergeant face checking, or rather checking up on all 3 members of Impunity at this point in time.
Sergeant in trouble. He's going to boots away, but he'll be okay. And now Angry Die and Trophies are going to try and pull it home. But the thing is, Impunity have got a tier 3 turret to try and take, whereas Nebulae had nothing, and that tier 3 turret going very low. 1 shot is available, so I reckon Sergeant needs to body block that. Nope, Kestrel's not even going to try and get the turret a bit lower. And so now Nebulae did just about defend their tier 3 turret, and now Impunity have great map control. They're just going to pop as much vision as they can. Quarterbar going to miss 2 scout traps, but not too bad. and now they don't want to start the Kraken. Iron Gudai does manage to repop his infusion. Truffy's is basically fully built at this point. He's got the Piercing Shard, and you don't really need to build that into a second Broken Myth. The Piercing Shard's enough to get through the Aegis, and once again, Impunity, the same rotation. Nebulae have had enough. They're going to Water Reds in, and there's going to be Lance going in. Gauntlet comes through. Echo down. DefQ is stuck in the middle of two Gauntlets, but he walks out with the block, and now Bluesteed going to try and get into Sky, but there's no chance with those Gauntlets. And now the second Divine Intervention comes through. Bluesteed 912 healing. Iron Gudai is trying to do what he can. DefQ's still full health, and that is a dead Truffy. Saiyajin's dead as well. What can Iron Gudai do? The answer is most likely nothing. He's going to try and combat roll or impale over that wall, try and run away, and the one-shot one kill a bit early. Does get the combat roll, not quite. Ace for Impunity, and that is just going to be the game, Luxury. They've got the minions, they've got the damage, they're going to take down the base.
They will be. Very well played to Nebulae. They looked like they almost had that game, but rotation-wise, they just did not beat Impunity to it. We saw when Impunity was marching down lane, Nebulae was just very hesitant to pull back, and when they finally actually did, the anchor turret was already taken down to half health. And what happened in the team fight was that Truffy's had burned all of his abilities on Quarter4, which is not really the target that you want to go for. And after all his abilities were down, Blue City immediately jumped on Truffy's, removed him from the fight. The next target was Saiyajin, and afterwards, Iron Gudai was just left standing.
Yeah, the double gauntlet did work quite well, but it wasn't quite enough for the Arden